Good morning. This is Debra V. Wilson. I'm in Bradford. It is the 19th of January, 2020, and the time is 1100 hours and 17 minutes, and that's BST. So I've been really remiss about keeping up my recording schedule, so I'm going to apologize in advance as I unfortunately hem and haw through this. And I have my window open, so you're going to hear street noises, but that's fine. I hope it's fine. In any case, here I go. I'm already hemming and hawing. I do think it's a sign of getting old. What is the impetus for this podcast is a Twitter post I saw from Black women radicals online, and it is from Ella Baker. Oppressed people, whatever their level of formal education, have the ability to understand and interpret the world around them, to see the world for what it is, and move to transform it. So, my passion is, of course, and my forte is the analysis of systems. And in those systems, I'd love to analyze, and this is one of the systems I love to analyze, would be national security models, and the context that I always seek to analyze from a contextual perspective would be an Alpha Order Canada, Israel, and the UK. As you know, I'm in the United Kingdom doing research to facilitate my continued education. And it made me think, when I saw that post, it made me think about MI6, as one would do. When you see a post from a Black women's entity organization out of the U.S., why wouldn't you think about MI6, the external, outward-looking security apparatus spying entity for the United Kingdom? And the reason why I did that, why the two connected for me, is as part of a marginalized community. I'm originally from Chicago in the U.S. I remember well at 62 years of age having to learn the way the dominant culture did things in order to achieve. I had the good fortune to come from two parents who could afford to educate me in private schools, so I learned to speak with the right accent. I learned to use the right words. I learned to not speak about eating certain foods in front of the dominant culture. I learned that there was a dominant religion, that all religions were not equal in the eyes of society, and the dominant religion in Chicago of the day was Catholicism. So I learned at a very early age that who and what I am was only one expression of being, and that there was a hierarchy in the world, and that for some people, their way of being was actually the dominant culture. I think that's important when I think about national security models, particularly about MI6, is because of the way I heard over the years here in this country, the talk on the streets, as they would say, is, I do sound old, don't I? MI6 back in the day, one heard, recruited from the upper classes. And they're the upper classes, and they sought, among other things, an intelligent person, a British citizen, and one of the other qualifications they looked for was that the person had international experience. I think that's because, if that is correct, that's one of the criteria they looked for, because it's an external entity that looks out and steps in to other countries, other cultures, other other constructs of societies in which hierarchies differ, that the people they recruit have to understand that they have to see and be aware that societies always construct themselves in hierarchies. And as intelligence operatives, they need to understand the rules to fit into those hierarchies, to rules of those hierarchies, and how to move through them without being obvious. I find it fascinating, the lived experience of myself and other Black Americans in the city of Chicago, which for many years and still is highly segregated, and how some Black people circumvented the oppression in Chicago. I think about my own parents' journey, who came from Mississippi. They were part of the Great Migration from the South to cities like Chicago, and how they both had careers and they were married when they moved from Mississippi. They had careers, they bought properties, they educated their children in private schools. And I looked at them and how they maneuvered in a city that was quite often very hostile to Black people, and told Black people, you don't have the right to self-determination, and here, let us tell you where you belong. And I watched both my parents traverse through such arduous situations, such hostile situations, and it's because they understood the cultures and the dominant culture, which was not the culture from which they emerged, and they learned how to move through it whilst maintaining self. So I'm going to post my Twitter comments about the Twitter post from Black women radicals, and I'm also going to post some information on MI6, the Secret Service, which has recently started expanding who they recruit, as well as MI5, the internal spying agency, but for the moment I'm focusing on MI6, and from a more expansive view on, in terms of recruiting and looking at who the task we have at hand, no matter what you think about the task they have at hand, and how they conceptualize themselves, and how the conceptualization of self as an agency includes who we need to bring into that agency, and how that is expanded with, I believe, a greater understanding of hierarchies, and that in fact sometimes people at the very bottom of the hierarchy, for sheer day-to-day survival, have to have an understanding of how societies construct themselves and how they, as marginalized persons, have to move through them. So, I hope this recorded. I think it did. It looked like it did. So, I'm hopeful, and I'm going to post it. And I still have year-end business to post about that's the internal security model, and that's what the focus on. MI5, security service, and SL15, the counterterrorism police. So, but in any case, and I'll post some information on Ms. Ella Barker. In any case, please do take a gander, read, and learn. I'm sorry, I do apologize. Her name is Ella Baker. Thank you very much for listening. And this is Debra V. Wilson.